And most of my opinions, they're not based in culture. They come from Islamic beliefs. They come from my beliefs in Islam and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said. And while I am not the perfect example of a Muslim, I do try to incorporate as many of those Muslim values in my life as I can. And a lot of what I believe is influenced by my deen, which is why I believe that the way of Islam and the way that life is prescribed to be lived, the Islamic way, is the optimum way of living. So I want women to use their intellect, not their bodies. I want women to have some dignity and honor and to be valued as a sentient human being that isn't just a piece of flesh or a piece of meat. My idea of freedom is not nakedness. My idea of freedom is not OnlyFans. My idea of freedom is not sexuality and promiscuity. That's what my idea of freedom is. I want to talk about the hate online towards people that have a more conservative opinion on certain things. Now, on the spectrum of, shall I say, wokeness, there are people who are very woke and have very kind of like open values and beliefs, and they kind of just go with the flow. They kind of go where the wind goes and they follow the direction of trends and the direction of where the world is going in that specific time. And then there are people who are a little bit more conservative or who have certain values and believe in certain traditions and are just conservative in the way that they do things. And I find that these people get a lot of hate online if they speak publicly about certain things. And there are so many occasions where I've come on TikTok and I've seen a video of someone speaking about their values and why they believe certain things and why they don't kind of subscribe to this like woke ideology. And whenever someone speaks about their opinion, unless it's within what is considered normal in today's society, you are faced with a lot of criticism, a lot of hate, and you are just simply judged. Now, we talk a lot about a free world, but I've never believed in democracy and I've never believed in a free world, because you're never really truly free. You're only free, or shall I say, you're only accepted if you subscribe to the common ideology at the time. But dare you have a different opinion, which is what everyone always bangs on about, right? Respect people's opinions, accept people's differences, don't judge, don't hate. And I find that the people that have more of a conservative opinion right now in this day and age, they're the ones that tend to be more understanding towards other people's opinions. For example, me, my family, my friends, the circle that I kind of move in, we tend to have more conservative opinions on certain things. So roles in marriage, on gender roles and things like that. But I don't really care what anyone else thinks about that. I have my opinion. I respect other people's opinions, even though I don't necessarily agree with all of them. But I find that people who are a little bit more woke really struggle accepting or kind of just giving me the space to share my opinions when it comes to the things that I believe. And how ironic is that? And the funny thing is that these very same groups that now have the space or the floor to share all of their opinions and scream loud from the rooftops about their beliefs and what they believe is right from wrong are also being very restrictive to the people that now differ in opinion. So once their opinions were the ones that were different, once their opinions were the ones that were considered to be controversial, they know what it's like to be limited and to be silenced. And it's just ironic to me how tolerance has turned into intolerance, how it's the very thing that gave them the freedom, which is their ability to speak, they're trying to limit for other groups that they don't agree with. And I don't believe in limiting people's speech. I don't believe in limiting people's ability to speak up about what they believe in. You have the floor, you believe in what you want to believe in, but don't do it at the expense of my freedom to speak about what I want to speak on. Now, I've always believed that actions have consequences, and I think based on what I speak on my page here as well, you'll find that I have very strong beliefs about certain things. And I don't necessarily always speak about like gender differences, or for example, women should do this or a woman shouldn't do that, or a man should do this and a man shouldn't do that. But I think you can gauge my opinion on certain things, and most of my opinions, they're not based in culture. They come from Islamic beliefs. They come from my beliefs in Islam and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said. And while I am not the perfect example of a Muslim, I do try to incorporate as many of those Muslim values in my life as I can. And a lot of what I believe is influenced by my deen, which is why I believe that the way of Islam and the way that life is prescribed to be lived, the Islamic way, is the optimum way of living. So a lot of the opinions that I share are not just from my mind. It's because I believe that that is the optimum way, because it is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants for us, and it's the way that Islam has prescribed for us. So when we see the world as it is right now, you cannot tell me that we are living in times of freedom. They've made you think that your liberation, based on how they've defined it, is freedom. But I'm just seeing more and more enslaved people, because if you don't subscribe to a particular ideology, then you are kind of an outcast. And this is what we're seeing right now. This is why we are seeing a massive divide between the left and the right, the conservatives and the more woke people. And I'm not speaking about politically conservative. I'm speaking about conservatives in terms of values and opinions and belief systems and all of that. And dare you say something that is not woke, you are considered a threat and you are considered a problem. And I think that we need to give more space to people to share their opinions on certain things and be able to openly talk about things that other people might not agree with. And I want to be that voice, which is why on this page, I speak a lot about deen and how certain things in Islam have genuinely massively changed my life, and how it can also change your life. And I want people to not be afraid to speak up about these things, because there is going to be a problem if we stay silent and we let that other ideology or the other side scream and be as loud as they want to be while trying to silence us. I respect other people's opinions. I don't enforce my own opinions on anyone else. I just am a voice for people who also share my opinions and who want to engage in a healthy discussion. And we don't have to agree with one another, but we should be able to engage in a healthy discussion, healthy criticism, without being rude, disrespectful, without belittling, and without being condescending in comments. So yeah, I just want to I wanted to touch on this because every time I've opened TikTok recently, I found that anyone who does speak of their Islamic values or their more conservative values, they're met with a lot of harsh criticism in the comments. And yeah, I just want to say that I will continue sharing my opinions, and they might be very harsh for some people, but it's just the belief system that I believe in and that I've seen in my life and that I've applied in my life and that I've seen actually work. And a lot of it is to do with genders. A lot of it is to do with why we as women need to protect ourselves from what we're told is freedom right now. And I don't want women to go into the world thinking that that is freedom. I want real, true freedom for women. I want women to use their intellect, not their bodies. I want women to have some dignity and honor and to be valued as a sentient human being that isn't just a piece of flesh or a piece of meat. My idea of freedom is not nakedness. My idea of freedom is not OnlyFans. My idea of freedom is not sexuality and promiscuity. That's what my idea of freedom is. And I will speak about these things as much as I want to, in the same way that people on the other side are entitled to speak about their opinions and their values. But yeah, I just wanted to drop that here, and let's engage in healthy discussion.